Hi Raisa. How you doing?
Hi. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Am I audible? Is it
Yeah,
fine?
yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, this is good.
Okay, so you want to begin?
Yeah, just hang on. Yeah, okay. So I think I'd tell you a little bit about myself. I work in brand marketing, and I've been working in marketing for the last 7 years now. And I like what I do. I am really passionate about storytelling, and that's the reason I do what I do. And apart from work, what I really like to do is I like to travel. Cooking is something that really interests me. I have a bit of, I have some creative instincts. So I dabble a bit in dance and
Wow,
filmmaking and all of that. Yeah. So
that's
that's
very
pretty
different
much.
field. So that's very creative. No wonder you got into marketing.
Yeah, actually, I mean, right from school, I was extremely interested in extracurriculars and storytelling specifically. Any reason to be out of class. So, storytelling was something that I really enjoyed, and that's really what marketing is about. It's at the heart of marketing. It is about stories. Brand building is about that. So, that's why I really enjoy what I do.
Okay. Have you had more experience with customers sides like B2C or B2B? Or have you worked with both?
I've done both actually. I started my career with an organization which was a B2B firm. And then I moved into consumer marketing, which is what I do now.
What do you like
Yeah.
better? What do you think was easier maybe?
In my B2B function, I was directly interacting with a lot of customers, and they would we could call them customers as opposed to consumers here. So that's the difference in semantics. But in B2B, you're more involved with the customer on a day-to-day basis, and your communication or how you communicate with them is limited. You don't have as many platforms for B2B as you have for B2C, because you don't have a television or a print. As what is really valuable when you're trying to build customer relations for in a
The
B2B
brands,
format
right?
is your one-to-one connect with the customer, and how well you understand their business and how much you can contribute to their business and their growth.
Okay.
If you're able to do that, then you're valuable.
Okay.
From a consumer from that, moving to a B2C is a very different ball game altogether. The mediums are different, and you're talking television, print, commercial, social media. It's a lot more open, much wider. There are a lot more avenues to play with. So as a marketer, B2C is a lot more exciting because you have so many more avenues to play with.
Okay. So, so a lot of brands have been struggling with um, how to form their marketing campaigns. Based on your expertise, what would you say are the essentials, for a good marketing campaign?
So I wouldn't say that I'm an expert on the subject, but whatever I've learned from experience, I think, what is a brand at the end of the day? It's what are the kind of qualities that a brand should embody. It's very much like striking a friendship with someone. What kind of a friend or what kind of a person would you like to strike a friendship with? Somebody who's authentic, somebody who you can relate to, somebody who is genuine, someone you can trust. So these are the kind of things that consumers look for when they look for a brand as well. They're looking for not just a product, but they're looking for almost like a friend. So they're looking for somebody who is offering something that's relevant, somebody they can trust, somebody who's authentic. You should be differentiated in a category. So what you're offering, how is it more than what other brands in the category are offering? and how do you put your story across in the most engaging and entertaining manner. I think tonality is very important for any brand campaign. It is not just about talking about your product and benefit. That is an advert. I mean, that's like something that anybody can do. But a marketing campaign becomes interesting when it has a very unique tonality, when people can relate to it. It is shareable. I mean, in this given day and age, we always tell our content partners that it has to be something that's shareable, and of course it has to touch you
Connect
somewhere. It
with
has
the,
to,
yeah.
yeah, you have to be able to connect with it. It has to have, there is no rational and emotional advertising, although we try to check all boxes when we look at a campaign, that you have to talk about your product benefits, one, two, three, four. It cleans better, it's safer, it has XYZ ingredients. But at the end of the day, if you don't move your consumer,
Okay.
then, I mean, they say information and emotion coming together is what makes long lasting memory. So that's what you should ensure that you do. You should have information, but at the same time, an emotional connect, which makes you memorable.
Okay. What digital marketing tools would you suggest that people use? So there are a lot of tools out there. Like for design, there is this app called Canva that people have been using. Apart from that, like what other tools would you recommend?
So I've not worked a lot on Canva, but I see my interns and the younger folks in the organization are working with it quite a bit. I think these tools are all very interesting. And what we do as marketers is we don't directly work with these tools, but we have creative agencies who work on these tools. So, in terms of the technical know-how, I wouldn't be able to tell you how to work with these tools. But from a digital marketing perspective, what I can tell you is that we try to keep a good mix of social, digital, especially because e-commerce is so relevant today. So e-commerce, in fact, also offers you a lot of platforms. The way your product is visible on an Amazon, you can really change the way your brand store looks, your products look, and you can make the customer journey that much more easier. So I think it is not just about looking interesting. At the end of the day, what you're trying to do is help a customer or a consumer make their decision more easily. So how do you help them navigate through their choices? That's where I think digital marketing is very, very critical, because when you're online, any product that, any category that you're exploring, there are hundreds of options, right? How do you help a consumer navigate to an option or a product that's right for them? That's your job as a marketer. So that's why you should use the tools that are the most relevant for your category. So it really depends from category to category. For some categories, say social media would work best. For some categories, they would want to stick to e-commerce and may not have as much of a presence on social media. So it
Right.
really depends from category to category.
Another thing that keeps happening is consumer trends keep changing, right, as you go.
Yeah.
So how do you stay updated with all these changing consumer trends? Is
That's what is interesting about the job, right? If they didn't change, then it would be boring. Like people would be selling a soap in the same way that they were selling a soap 100 years back. And
Right.
because consumers change and there are new requirements and there are new need gaps, as we call it in marketing terms, that's what makes marketing interesting. So I think there is nothing that can replace first-hand interactions with consumers. You have to be on ground. You have to speak to the people who are buying your product. Especially for somebody who's new, any marketer, any brand that's new, every consumer can teach you something. So it's important to be in touch with your consumers firsthand. I mean, all marketers have a lot of tools at their disposal, whether it is quantitative data or going through research agencies that can give you reports and reports out about what consumer trends are. But you will get real conviction and real insights, I believe, only from a first-hand experience. So there's nothing that can really replace that.
Okay. So, you said you love traveling and you've solo
Yeah.
traveled as well. You must miss it, with this lockdown in place. How is
Yeah.
it affecting you apart from that? It's even like from a work perspective. Has it been
Yeah.
easier or more difficult?
Yeah, I think the lockdown is taking a toll on everybody gradually, physically, mentally, emotionally. We all started with not knowing what to do with our time and how to structure it. But we're all bound and used to routines.
Right.
So somehow we've all slipped into our own routine and we found a routine even when we are at home. And there is nobody really keeping a time check, but all of us, most of us, have slipped back into a routine. So that I think gives a sense of gives you a sense of security. That routine gives you some comfort and safety. So that is something that I've also done. I have my own routine. I like to take a break, obviously on and off, go to the terrace, spend some time there. That's the only that's the only time I have which is out of the house, which is the time that I spend on the terrace, which is my favorite part of the day. So I think that's something that's very important. I mean, otherwise, all the days seem the same. It's like it's just the same. It's other till you step out and you see the sky and you realize that no, today it's a little different. The wind feels a little different. The clouds look a little different, and it just feels nicer to breathe out in the open.
Yeah, I
So
think it's
that for
very
me is very
important
important.
to take these small breaks just to get your mind doing different stuff. Otherwise, it's always work, work, and you're looking at the same surroundings, nobody to interact with. So it's quite tough. A
Yeah,
lot of people have been facing a lot of like emotional issues. They're going through anger, they don't
yeah,
know how to manage their time. So, what would
yeah.
you suggest? Like, people should fix a schedule for themselves. They should take breaks. What else? What else can you do to, yeah,
So actually, one of my friends, she is a psychologist, and I was talking to her about exactly the same question that what should people do. So she's the one who again told me that a routine is important. It is also important to spend time with yourself. I mean, don't go on this productivity spree that I have to finish an online course, I have to learn something new, I have to learn how to cook, I want to do 10 things. Don't be on a productivity spree, because that's something that we see on social media all the time, that people have these checklists and they're like, okay, I've accomplished so much in the 50 days that's gone by. Just give yourself some time to breathe and give yourself some space to reflect. Spend time with yourself. That's very, very important, because I mean, this is a time like never before, and we're sort of being pushed to do that now. Reflect and spend some time with ourselves without any distractions, without too many people around. So I think that's very important. Don't go crazy. Don't overthink.
yeah.
Don't try
And
and
everybody has down days as well. Some people, it just happens. You have
yeah.
some days that are just not productive, right? So
Absolutely.
it's just a
Yeah, yeah,
part of
yeah. So
it.
don't beat yourself down on those days. I mean, that's what I'm saying, that it's okay. If you have a couple of days where you're not that productive, it's absolutely fine. And just give yourself some room and don't be so hard on yourself. That's important because all of us are going through something that's emotionally very draining and we don't realize it. Initially, we were all like, okay, okay, let's take it in our stride. But it does get to you. I mean, for most people, it is like that.
It
So
does,
I
yeah.
would say, yeah, stick to a routine, but also have things that you look forward to that break the monotony of the day
Right.
and have fun. Yeah.
So with the current scenario in mind, the economy is in bad shape and things aren't going well for a lot of people. How do you think brands can adapt to uncertainties? So like coronavirus, for example, was completely unexpected. And
Yeah.
there will be things in the future that will come up. And business
Yeah.
had completely stopped. Just I think a few things were working. So, how do you think
Hmm.
brands should adapt, or is there any way for them to safeguard themselves against uncertainties?
Actually, I mean, it's a very difficult thing to answer because there is no one size fits all, right? It really depends on the category that you're operating in. So if you are in the essentials category, like the category that I'm working in, it's part of the essentials. So for us, it has been relatively easier, I would say, because it's not a discretionary expenditure.
Right.
People will, FMCG is something, a lot of it falls under essentials. So I mean, for those categories, it is important to stay relevant in these times and stay connected with your consumers. Make sure that you're available and make sure that you reassure your consumers
That
that yeah, that the product works and you're delivering quality and you are going to be available. But at the same time, there are brands and categories that are not relevant at this point of time. So what do? I think this is the time to then just conserve your energy, your money, conserve it, because this is a temporary phase, and gradually, as we are looking at things opening up, then be you should be back with a bang. But I would say for a lot of categories and brands, it is important also to conserve energy, money. And we are doing the same. In spite of the fact that we operate in the essentials category, we are more careful and we have optimized our budgets considerably. You
okay.
have to do that because you don't know which way the economy is going to turn. So, as much as you'd want to be creative and everybody wants to roll out campaigns that are relevant to Corona, and that's great because you want to do something for people out there, help them, but at the same time, be very cautious. That's what I would say.
So,
And wait for your time.
right. So, with Twitter recently, like they said, all employees can work from home permanently. Do you think there
Hmm.
will be more companies doing this? And is it a positive thing or no?
So I'm sure that you all have been reading. There are mixed opinions on this, right? And there are people who said that nothing can replace people connecting in one space and the relationship that you share with your colleagues and your peers. There's the lunch that you share, the outings, the breaks that you enjoy together. There's nothing that can replace that. No Zoom call can replace that. And I truly believe that it is true. What is work environment? Work environment is what people make of it. So there's nothing that can replace that. I know a lot of people who are productive at home, like they are able to deliver on their projects, but they're not happy doing that because they don't like the environment. They miss office, they miss their colleagues, they miss that energy. So many people working on a project together also brings in that energy and that positivity. Akele kaam karna, it's not that easy. I mean, some people
Right.
work better that way, but most people want an environment that's conducive. And how do you create that environment at home? It's very hard. So the way I look at it is work from home will always be like an alternative. It's an alternative. I mean, what best can you do being at home is definitely a question that we should answer. But will it replace and can it replace working in a shared space? I don't think so. I don't think it brings in the same kind of energy that a shared space does. But yeah, organizations are thinking about it, about prolonging this. So it looks like we're going to see more of work from home, and it brings in its flexibility. But personally, for me, I feel that I miss a shared space and I miss working with people. In spite of the fact that we are doing this live and I can see you on the screen, I know that it would have been a different vibe if we were
If we
sitting
sitting
next to each
together,
other.
yeah, I agree. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the only positive thing that has come out of all this is the improvements in the environment, right?
Hmm.
Is there any way brands will be able to sustain this? Because once things go back to normal, the environment is going to go back to the way it was. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
do you think there is anything that brands can do to sustain this? Any small
So
thing?
I think Yeah. So, in my experience, again, the body of work that I've seen in marketing from brands, this conversation around sustainability and being responsible, being environmentally conscious, is a conversation that started about a couple of years back. If you see, most of the international brands have been talking about it. There are brands that are built on sustainability, and
Right.
people buy them for that reason. Like it's one of the core value propositions of the brand, that it is sustainable, it is environmentally conscious, whether it is about using recycled plastic, or whether it is about contributing to the environment, or working with organizations that contribute to the environment. So monetary or bringing changes in your product and packaging, brands have been talking about sustainability. I think what this really does now is it will give that conversation more momentum. There are going to be more brands talking about sustainability.
Right.
The brands that are already doing that, they will continue to do that because it's become even more important now. So an example that I really, really love is this. In the month of February, there was a campaign by Burger King, which is called the Moldy Whopper.
Moldy
So it's a
Pepper.
very Whopper. The
Whopper.
Whopper is
Yeah, yeah, the Whopper.
yeah, the burger.
Mm.
And the moldy Whopper came from a very simple idea that when food is natural, when it is it doesn't have any artificial preservatives, it does go bad. It
Yeah,
will
I
go
have
bad.
seen that. Yeah.
And it's a very intelligent campaign and very nicely done. It's a 45-second clip that gives you a visual of what a burger, how it decomposes and degrades, and it turns into a moldy Whopper over 34 days.
Yeah, I think
So
he
that's what I'm
compared
saying.
it with McDonald's, yeah? Or another.
So
Yeah.
that's something that they don't even need to say. Consumers will do it on their own. They will compare it. And they will say that, okay, so Burger King doesn't have artificial preservatives, and they're talking about it. And they've come out with a new product for this reason. It's not like they're saying our existing product checks all the boxes.
Right.
So brands are conscious about the fact that, it's not, you have to walk the talk. You can't. Consumers today are looking at everything. They will pick up your communication, they will pick up your packaging, they will pick up who is endorsing your brand, they will pick up which factory you come from. So you can't get away by saying that I'm using recycled plastic and hence I'm environmentally friendly. They will ask you, is your formulation biodegradable? They will ask you, are your factories carbon positive?
Right.
So you have to be very, very careful, and there are high benchmarks with regard to sustainability now because consumers are so much more conscious. So I think lots of brands are talking about this space, and this crisis is only going to give momentum to this conversation around sustainability.
Okay, so that's good. I think I'm done with my questions. I really want to thank you for making the time to do this.
My
Not
pleasure.
just us, but I'm sure other people who will watch this video, who are watching it now and who will watch it in the future also will really appreciate your insights. If there are any questions, just one second. Ajit, hello Raisa ma'am, I wanted to know how branding affects sales.
Okay, sure. So
Sorry.
I think,
Yeah, good to
yeah,
go.
there is a great video out there that you guys should watch, which talks about the auto sector, and it talks about the fact that how a Tesla will probably survive these times, while a General Motor or a Ford's might need help from the government, a bailout. And one of the reasons that they say that would be the case is because of the brand Tesla, not because of the product out there, because cars are all about efficiency, right? And technology. And
Right.
everybody and brands and products out there, there are products out there that are better and more efficient. But the brand love that people have for Tesla is something that can't be compared with what the other brands have. So that is the difference between a brand and a product. A brand has a life of its own. Even if you have a strong brand and a faulty product also, people will forgive you. Like for example, look at Maggie. They had a faulty product, and people, I mean, they were scared to consume the brand. But
Right.
once they fixed the product, the brand was up,
Yeah.
and People who love Maggie will continue to love Maggie. So that's what brand love is. It is not dependent on product per se. Of course, you have to make sure that you deliver the basic quality as far as product is concerned. But it's not true the other way around. If your brand is unethical and if you're caught doing something wrong, something that goes against the interest of your consumers, irrespective of how good your product is, consumers will not come back to you. So, as a brand, if you falter, then a good product cannot salvage you.
So an
So
image,
that's
the
the
image
difference.
you build is everything.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So product is from a sales perspective, brand building is something that will reflect in your sales in the long term. You may not see the results immediately. So that's the reason a lot of people in sales tend to get impatient about marketing. They're like, Aapne, you've built this campaign. I don't see a jump in my sales. So brand building is a more long-term process. It takes time, to build a brand.
Right.
So that's what people in sales should keep in mind. But it's about giving a more solid foundation to what you stand for, and to ensure that there's consumer loyalty that branding drives. A product will not drive so much loyalty as brand love will. So that's where branding is very, very important.
Okay. One last question, Raisa. What keeps you so motivated? Like every day? Because so it always varies, right? Some days you're like all
Hmm.
chucked up, and some days you're like, no, it's not gonna work, no. So what keeps you
Yeah.
just a person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. So, like you said, I mean, there are some days that are very good, some days that are not so good. So, I am not somebody who's always cheerful and full of energy and bouncing around the house. That's not me. That's not my vibe. But how I try to pick myself up whenever I do feel down or low, and I mean, first of all, some basics, which is, you have to love what you do, you have to have interest in what you do, because you spend so much of your time working. Out
Right.
of 24 hours in a day, 10, 12 hours you're working or talking about work. So if it's something that you absolutely don't like, then irrespective of how much sweets you have or how many movies you watch, you're not going to enjoy your life. So I think it's very important to have the right kind of work, in terms of it should fit with you. It should fit well with you. You should feel good about it, should feel passionate about it. It helps to have good people around you. That's absolutely necessary. Friends, family, even if you're not connected and you're not with them physically, just to connect with them over phone or through text messages. It helps to have people around you who are positive, positive people feed off each other.
Right.
And that's something that's energy. You need not be in the same space. But when you talk to a friend who genuinely cares, you feel uplifted, right?
Right.
Because
Exactly.
irrespective of the fact that they are not next to you. So I think that's the other thing that's very important. And then if nothing works, then there are always desserts.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Raisa, for joining us today.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, all the best. Bye.